basically, if I go to rendered, I have like stupid blocks and stuff, and they're just a cube and then this weird shape that I lofted. So when I go to rendered, now it has all these dots. So to make those, you might think you have to model them by hand, or like to get this shape right here, you might think you have to actually model all those holes. But I'm sure, as Peter knows, that's very heavy on your computer and it'll hate you. And it's also just, it'll take a lot of time. So I'm going to show you how to do it really quickly, and I'm going to show you an easy way and a hard way. So the first thing you have to do is make sure it's on a layer. And so you'll go over to material, and let's see. I'm going to just make a new material. So custom is a good option because you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. Let's see. I'll just walk through what I did. So basically, you should have just a shape like this. I made it blue just so it's easier to see. And so down here, when you do a custom material, you can assign the color by texture, so you can import like a brick image or all this other stuff. And so there's also a transparency thing and a bump. So bump will kind of add a three-dimensional texture sort of to your material to make it look more real. Today we're just going to look at the transparency pattern. So normally you just click here to assign the texture, but I already have a texture, so I'm going to click there. And so I just found this pattern on the internet. Basically it needs to be black and white. So black, any part of this image that's black will be transparent and see-through. Then the white is the solid. And if you do have any gray, that means it'll be like a 50-50 transparency. So, and it's good to also, when you're searching for these on the internet, try to find one that's seamless, because then it'll allow you to repeat it without it looking weird. So basically you just press open, and so the first, it'll kind of just pop up just like that, which it may be good the first time, but it might not be. So in order to change that, the easy way is this. The easy way is just to click here on pattern, and then scroll down, and then there's mapping. So you can easily just say, make your repeat, actually, 10. And so that'll make it'll repeat it a lot more like a tile. Or you could do 0.5, and that'll do less of a repeat. It won't even do the full image. So it just so happens that 1 was a good number. And you can change things like the rotation, because before it was kind of like that, which maybe you want it, or you can just play around with the rotation. And then of course the offset too. If you enter a number there, do 180, so that'll rotate it. And I knew that because I played around, because sometimes you don't know like which one of these does what, so you might need to kind of experiment to see which one actually controls the variable you want it to. But yeah, so then once you do that, then it changes and it looks great. And so this will also cast a shadow, and really the main point of this is you can map this texture and make it transparent without having to model all this detail, because that would take forever. Okay, so that's the first thing that I wanted to show. Does anyone have any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward, as long as you just remember to go to the material and then just make sure you change it to custom. It's pretty easy. Okay, and then the next thing, I meant to show you this Tuesday, but this is one example. This is actually probably one of the more handy examples I've used. So, to find the file. So basically, when I did this project one year, this was pretty much the shape of the building, and it had a curtain wall around the whole perimeter. And I didn't really feel like making the mullions by hand, And so it's actually fairly easy to do it with Grasshopper. So really you just would, and you can do this obviously a ton of different ways, but this is just the way that I've used before. So one thing you can do is, that would be the top of the curve. That's the bottom curve. So when you combine those, that's pretty much like your windows. And so basically what this script does is it divides that line into a bunch of points, the bottom and the top line, and then it'll connect them. So that makes your vertical mullions, and then down here you can do an offset from the top and an offset from the bottom. So basically, and I guess if you wanted to, you can make another offset or take away one, however you want your windows to look like. But then basically you'll get this grid, and then through these steps over here, more or less what it does is you input the thickness you want of the actual mullion. So I just put 2. And so when you complete it, it'll actually give, it's kind of hard to zoom in, there you go. So it'll actually give your mullions a thickness, and then it'll turn them into a mesh. That's good if you want to, because kind of like what I showed with the textures over here and the transparency stuff, if you were just to bake these as poly surfaces, it may make your computer run slower, but when you turn into a mesh, your computer, it's just easier for your computer to process. So that may save you a little bit of computer strength and maybe make it faster. But anyway, then you would bake that onto a layer. I guess I can do it, won't take much long. Yeah, so pretty much that just makes the mullions, and I never really got, because like when I did this project I had a door right here, so I had to go in here and trim some stuff, and I guess that's where you would actually want a poly surface, because it's confusing to trim meshes. So in that case you actually would want a poly surface, but you may still have to delete stuff. I'm sure you could get around that, but for my intent, I just spent the time to just do this, because this actually saves a lot of time. And then, like, if you don't, I guess what's also cool about it is if you change something about it, it should, yeah, it'll actually just update right then and there. So if you were to do this later in Studio, and you weren't using Grasshopper, you would probably cry, because you'd have to remake this whole thing again. So that's one example, and I'll upload this script. I had it for Rhino 5, and when I used it for Rhino 6, it didn't really work anymore, so I had to fix a couple of things. So there's always complications with switching between different versions of software and all that fun stuff. So those were just the 2 things I wanted to show you guys for today. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay.
Can you put this video on the Teams just in case like we want to go back to rec?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm recording right now because I have to submit something and it's due on Monday, but they only need like 10 minutes. So yeah, I'll only be using like a small portion, but yeah, I'll put this on Teams too so you can watch it again.
Jordan, you know how you had like those purple borders around your script? How did you make those?
Oh, let's see.
They're like kind of like group the script in a way.
Yeah, so that's very important. If I'm going to be giving you this script, so it's important to be organized. And actually, I just found out how to make this thing a couple of days ago, because it can give instructions. So I'll show you that first. That's called a panel, and then you can just type in whatever you want, and that's it. If you link it to something, you'll screw everything up, so don't do that. And so yeah, for the purple box, what you do is you highlight Okay, you highlight what you want to become in that box, and I think you press Control G. Okay, yeah. So that's grouping. It's pretty much a group. And then with that, you can right click on it and give your group a title. So that's handy. Basically, it's just handy if for being organized and that kind of thing. And then
Yeah, because those would really come in helpful when you're making like really long scripts.
yeah.
So, thank you.
This is, I'll show you something. This is because I showed you the Pello script. So I actually made this. I'll open up the file too. Because I showed you the Pello script I made last week. But basically I took that script and I did a couple more things with it to automate the process better. And so yeah, that's where it definitely comes in handy of having the groups and all that other stuff, because if you do that, then like I can take this script and share it with someone and they maybe can understand what I did. At least they'll understand more than if I didn't have all of the groups. So I think more or less like this whole part came from the internet. And so yeah, it's nice to just be able to do one part, but if you just link these things together, you can do a lot more, and you can actually do, like, that would be the structure the pillows would sit on, and then that actually makes the pillows. So it probably took like a couple of days to figure this out, but the amount of time it saves you in the long run is enormous. Plus, it gives you a lot of flexibility because you can literally just change one thing and the whole thing will update. So yeah, groups, and this isn't really even that organized, but it's better than it could be.
That one looks like crazy complex, honestly.
It's not that bad because really, it's just every block is just the exact same thing. So like for the pillow, there's a top pillow and a bottom pillow. The one on the internet, I would have had to input or change the numbers every time. So I'd have to do it once, then do the opposite to get the bottom one. So if you just think about it a little bit, you can actually combine the top and the bottom in one script. And so really this is not as hard as it looks like. The meat of it, like this stuff, I just found off the internet and tweaked it to suit my purposes. So it's never as bad as it looks like.